And welcome to Conservatives Talk.
And RoboCop has actually made his way to New York City.
Yes, and we find ourselves asking, is Canada really showing who's fighting in Ukraine? This one's going to go down in the annals of history. And welcome to Conservative Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we like to take a moment to remind you, and we are coming back to this a little bit because it has been a little while since we've reminded you of this, but Jamie's Law does dictate that and require that you must hit the like button as well as the share button on any of our productions that you see on any of our platforms that we release it on. So saith Jamie Law. It also dictates. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and call it what it is. It is a mandate, an enforceable mandate that you must subscribe to these platforms and make sure you are hearing Jamie's Law so you can carry forth his message and spread it across globally. So Jamie can once again, but in the future become the omnipotent being that he knows that he is. But in order to do this, it does require that you go to our website at conservativetalk.org and hit that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and make your tithing to Jamie. He dictates it. He demands it. He requires it, as so saith Jamie Law. So make sure you are carrying out your Jamie-and duties and really making sure that you are complying with Jamie Law there. So with that, Your Lordship, would you please give us your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines. It's time to once again continue the onslaught of liberal media in Northwest Georgia. And it starts with you ending hometown headlines.
Yes. I mean,
I know I said it very rurally, but the reality is we got to get rid of this crook. He's got to go. We're over him.
Oh, wow. I mean, talk about a swing and a miss.
Like, jackwagon. There's no other way to describe it.
Oh, wow. Swing and a miss. But with that, we do want to say a quick thank you to our affiliates, and our first one being Net News Network. So you can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. So Net News Network is a local compilation of on-the-ground newscasters that produce firsthand news because they know what's going on in their areas. They know what's going on there. They're able to speak with people that are locally available and really be able to get out a lot of the information that you, quite frankly, would not be able to get out of without being on the ground and having a lot of that firsthand information. We also want to say a quick thank you to Veterans for America First, the premier America First policy organization. They are the ones that are on the front lines fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we remain the greatest nation in the world. And they really push a lot of their agenda through their media platform, and that being Vet Voice. So you can find Vet Voice on every major social media platform. So make sure when you are looking for anything locally or anything that could be construed as America First policy, make sure you are looking for Vet Voice. So with that, Jamie, how about let's go ahead and jump right into it.
So yeah, I mean, like Skynet's real. Like I don't know how it's like that's the other way to start. I mean, because basically
Skynet started in New York too.
Which is also crazy because if anybody who's seen and is a real conspiracy theorist like myself, you know what I mean? If you've seen like Babylon AD, you know what I mean? Also based in New York City.
Escape from New York. Yeah.
Escape from New York, like the whole thing.
Independence Day. I mean,
all of it. It all goes back to New York is the new Babylon. So why wouldn't we expect anything less? They have now introduced. It's also where red light cameras started, and where it's now to the point to where they are now introduced robots as on-street police officers. And, you know, I love police. I have no problem with that, but that just feel a little creeped out with a robot trying to enforce the law on me. Like what happens if iRobot becomes real
I didn't even think about that one.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
I'm not sleeping tonight.
there are so many levels that I have of concern here. And, you know, if this prototype, let's just get into the basics of it, right?
Yes. So
Before I go on a tangent down my rabbit hole.
So what we're looking at here is that they are introducing a new kind of surveillance. We'll call it surveillance system. To where it is. What is it? It's the Nightscope K5. It's going to be introduced on a 2-month probationary period. They're going to record video footage for authorities to use, and I'm quoting here from a news source. They're going to record video footage for authorities to use in case of emergency or crime. It says that they will be equipped with various security features, including a button that will allow New Yorkers to connect to a live person for questions, report suspicious activity, or request emergency assistance. I'm pretty sure that's what cell phones do.
Not only that, here's the thing that really gets me, okay? It says that it cannot and it will not record the audio of an issue or a crime that's occurring unless someone presses a button that's on this 400-pound machine.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand how that works.
Why is it there? It's like a kiosk that may be facing in the right direction, and it only works if you press the button.
Well, here's my whole thing, right? If I'm getting chased by a criminal, I'm not going to have time to stop and look at the officer that's a robot and press a button. Or what happens if its prompt goes wrong at the kiosk? And you know what I mean? Like, what if I need someone with a gun? Like, this is New York City. What if I need someone with a gun at that moment while I'm getting chased down the subway and, you know, something happens? Now, I will say this, right?
Jamie wants real RoboCop.
I want human beings, but
yeah, actual police officers.
You know, but you know, I will say this: like during the trial run, there's supposed to be a humanoid officer with with a robot at all times. But like, what happens if the trial one works? And you know, if this pops off in DC, like, and they get through the 2-month trial. Like, it's going to Washington, D.C. If it pops up in New York, it's going to be in D.C. next. Like that, they run in tandem. Like, one of them does cameras every 10 feet to record everything. The other one does it. One of them does red light cameras and stop and search and frisk. The other one does it. Like, it's only a matter of time before, like, and D.C. takes it to the next level. Like, these will be on the street, not just in the subways like New York just test running them.
Yeah, it's really... number one, it's terrifying. And number two, it's, well, serves you right. I mean, they went through the whole defund the police movement there. So one of the reasons why they're doing this is because they're able to lease these multi-million-dollar robot sentries out for $9 an hour. That's what they're leasing them for, and they're justifying this is that it's below the minimum wage. They don't take lunch breaks. They don't go to the bathrooms. They just stand there.
16-hour shifts. They're working 16-hour shifts.
Are they really working? Or are they just like
Here's
in a kiosk?
Here's the thing. They're going to have them working full on call, 3-day rotation, 16-hour shifts. And before long, these will replace humans when it comes to it, because they've raised literally the minimum wage to an unsustainable amount based on the economy for even New York City. How insane is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, not just that, but they with their defund the police movement and them taking all the funds away from the police, this is all they can afford to bring in officers to do the job that they were hired to do to begin with.
Which is another valid point, because think about this: if they had never done this whole defund the police movement, people would still want to be a cop and serve inside of New York City. Mm-hmm. But all this wokeness that's going on has literally made people not want to be a police officer in New York City. I don't know why you would want to be a police officer in New York City to begin with anyway. But then
it used to be one of the most prestigious places to work in the country.
Like, that's where you want it. Like, you know what I mean? They're in Chicago, but look what happened there.
Or LA.
But now what they've done is they've made it so unsustainable to not just be a police officer, but to live there on a governmental salary that now they've come in and brought in robots that they can skirt. What happens next, right? Are the robots going to form a union?
Coming in.
Are the robots going to form a union? You know what I mean?
It's possible.
Like, I'm terrified. Once robots form unions, you know what I mean? And then,
well, they got to become sentient at that point.
But here's the other thing, which is also a kicker.
I mean, if they throw in
When
AI,
when
we're
it
done.
comes to this, these are fully recognized police officers. So they've also made it notified that anyone who does damage to them, anything like that,
Well, a certain level of damage
will be charged with obstruction of justice, assault of a police officer, or anything like that, which is in a sense good, right? But now this is like when Saudi Arabia recognized the AI robot as as a citizen. You know what I mean? Like we now are given a robot privileged over humans. I just want to be cautious with that kind of train of thought.
Yeah, no, that is pretty terrifying. I mean, this whole defund the police movement. I mean, it's not just in these ultra liberal cities. I mean, we see it even close to here at home as well.
Well, those are idiots, but
well, yes, but I mean, here back at home, we have officers that are the lowest paid in the area. They go through the training here because it's easiest to get into, and there's such a high level of recruitment. They just come here, become post certified, and move off wherever else they want to go to get a higher pay. I mean, we just had a sitting city commissioner, Mark Cochran, in his negotiations, vote for or put up the amendment to have our local PD evicted from their headquarters, and now they're stuffed inside of an old school building, hoping and praying that the local tax or that the local citizens here will vote in favor of a new additional sales tax to fund a new police headquarters, because Mark Cochran wanted to buy a hole in the wall money pit,
which is insane. Because and here's what I mean by that, right? Like that trade for a police headquarters versus the forum, I hope it generates revenue, because it hadn't generated revenue in a long time.
Ever.
Like it was supposed to be an entertainment venue. Like, I mean, they can't even have pro wrestling there anymore, which was like the big grab that was always there when I was a kid.
They can't even have like a gospel or a local church singing there. I mean, they can't host any sort of event there because there are no electronics or any systems that are in the building, because they were all gutted out to sell, to try and make payments on the building, because it wasn't bringing in revenue. But yet the city has it in their mind that they're going to turn it around.
Yeah. Bless their hearts. That's a tough situation to be in, and here's the thing. Law enforcement's very big here. Yes,
absolutely.
Outside of
our local police department deserves a hell of a lot more respect than that.
In Floyd County, outside of, the hospitals, the next largest employment is law enforcement across 7 agencies that operate here inside of Floyd County. And, it's detrimental that, the largest city, the city seat inside of there has lost their headquarters because of craziness. At what point will this woke agenda bring in robots like New York City? You know what I mean? Because they can pay them $9 an hour. It's honestly ridiculous.
Well, if we can ever get past all these ELOS that they're wanting to spend, maybe they'll announce another SPLOST and bring in payments to buy in these new robots.
Which, and after going back and looking at some information, you really can't tie an intergovernmental agreement between a board and a municipality on a financial standpoint. So this whole, going back to our last episode, for those of you who haven't seen it, please go back and look at our last episode where we talk about the ELOS and how the city commission tried to tie or go into an intergovernmental agreement with the Board of Education through the Collins family on making this work. But that's a whole other ballgame. I don't want to lose it.
But before we do that, I'll need to put up a little flashing hint sign for any pending legal litigation for the future.
Well, I mean, that's not, you can't sue them. Like, you know what I mean? And they can't sue us, because the reality is there's no.
What if a citizen? We'll talk about that later.
Anyway, like
as you were saying,
the reality is that going through governments can't bind other governments, or previous boards can't bind, new boards. That's kind of weird that they would even attempt to do something so highly discreditable.
Well, we know why they did
with an IGA that can't, because they're losing.
Exactly. They know they're going to lose the seats, and they know they're not going to have the majority there. So they're trying to force through their agenda while they still can.
We've gotten off on a tangent, but the reality is
this is the show.
The reality is that RoboCops are stupid. no one should want to, in any
To
reason,
defund the
be
police
like
movement's
Chicago or New York. Defund the police movement is stupid. It goes back to when, they try to do this gun violence thing here. And one of the first things they did was they brought up a video of Left Foot from Chicago. You know what I mean? The mayor who helped ruin what was left of the dignity of Chicago. The all of that kind of ties together. So if you, I can't do that, but I'm just telling you, Rome,
you can
Rome will be next on a chopping block of long list of problems, like what's going on in New York with defund the police and adding RoboCops into it. If we keep this up,
yeah, for real. Thank your local commissioner. I think that says it all there. To be honest with you, thank your local commissioner. So with that, we do want to take a quick moment to remind you of Lord Jamie's Law, and that you are required to make sure you are hitting the like button and the share button on any of the production that you see that we do produce and release out on any of our platforms, as well as it does clearly defined and it is well searchable that you are required to subscribe to those platforms so you can learn Jamie's message and you can go forth and spread it out and create goodwill. It also says there that you must tithe your 10% monthly dues to Jamie. And you may do so exclusively by going to the website at conservativestalk.org and hitting that sponsor tab up there. You will directly be sponsoring Jamie's ultimate takeover of the universe and his ultimate plan of peace and harmony throughout the known existence and the unknown existence.
Since you're talking like a Nazi with that crazy Jamie Lord stuff, let's talk about the next topic.
Yes. So that is, and we do have to ask this question: is Canada showing exactly who is fighting in the Ukraine war on the Ukrainian side?
100%.
So you have long heard rumors, and we know they have been rejected as conspiracy theories, and this blah 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 blah, all this other crap. That it's not real, it's fake, it's Russian propaganda. But let's be honest, there is a history there. There is a history in Ukraine, and that history is the Ukrainians fought for the Nazis.
Yeah,
and it was proven so just this past week, in that even when President Zelensky, the great man on high at the moment, went to the Canadian Parliament to be honored for his selfless, enduring battle against the Russian aggression. We're going to use some of their propaganda with this. They honored a 98-year-old Nazi as a great Ukrainian and Canadian hero.
He was in the SS. This is not our propaganda. The guy literally was one of the strongholds in the 14th SS Regiment of the Nazi Party.
Yeah, so he fought in the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS. And I want to take a minute to really flesh that out. And this SS unit has actually been implicated in multiple mass murder instances. So I actually wanted to find out what they were and who they were. So I went in and I researched in the Holocaust Encyclopedia, and they defined the SS, or Protection Squad, as originally established as Adolf Hitler's personal bodyguard unit. It would later become both the elite guard of the Nazi Reich and Hitler's executive force, prepared to carry out all security-related duties without regard to legal restraint. And that's who they're honoring. I mean, it kind of says who's, yeah. And get this, it was a volunteer unit too. He had to volunteer to join it.
Yeah. Things are different in the 3rd than they are in the 5th, but all I'm going to say is, I just think it's.
I need another disclaimer. Hint, hint, hint.
I just think it's interesting.
If you read the Roman Tribune, that's exactly what this is.
Well, and what I mean by that is like, let's just call a spade a spade. Like the reality is we're
going to get canceled.
This is what Zelensky has been advocating for the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Like, I've never seen a bigger pimp. He goes to Congress. He goes to Canada. Like, you know what I mean? I wish someone would write me a check like that.
So,
like, this is ridiculous.
So get this. The week before he was in Canada for this, he was in D.C. while they were negotiating the defense spending bill to get a larger portion of the check that they would institute for the next year's appropriation.
How ridiculous is that? They literally went on break, and then when they come back, the Democrats bring in Zelensky to literally do a stump speech as they are negotiating the budget. I don't know about you, but if you've ever worked in a large organization and you've had to argue for your departmental budget, that's what happens. You go sit before the people who are going to approve the budget, and then they go, "Hey, what do you want? What could you cut? What could you not have? What can you have? What are your priorities?" Zelensky just went through what every other federal department head just had to do.
Yes.
They made Ukraine come in like they were the governor or the head of an agency and sit down before Congress and OBM and say, "This is what I need and this is what I can cut as long as you give me my budget."
Mm-hmm.
And then the pimp went from there and went to the next country up when it didn't work out. Like he's shopping for a loan. Like he's a private business owner getting out here going to say, "Hey, Goldman, I need this in order to make this investment work." "Okay, well, you didn't work. I'm going to Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley, you can't fund it at this interest rate that I need. I'm going to go over here." That's what he's doing.
Says he's not looking for an interest rate. He's just wanting to flat out give it to him.
I just want it for free. That's what I mean by interest rate. He won't zero down.
Zero down, 0 interest, 0 months forever.
You know what I mean? He needs to go to Aaron's. or hit up Rent-A-Center. I don't think they're doing interest loans until like 2026 at this point. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. But no, I mean, I think that's a great look at exactly who is fighting in Ukraine now. And we are not advocating at any point in time for Russia going in and killing any innocent civilians or killing anyone in Ukraine at all.
We're not advocating for
war at all. Yeah. But what we are saying is that these are the people that historically that's what was fighting in Ukraine. We are simply bringing you that information that this is who was fighting in Ukraine during that point in time. And part of the information that was released is that Russia was moving in to fight Nazis.
Yeah. I mean, Ukraine has a long history, like we said before, has a long history of fighting with Nazis voluntarily. This was not like Poland where it was like a forced voluntary. Mm-hmm. This was legit. And then after that, you know what I mean, all that fell, went to the SSR, and then the USSR fell, and then now they want freedom, but the principles are still insane and ingrained in these people, and this is what we're seeing.
Yeah, like no elections until after the war. I mean, we kind of saw that in the 1940s in Germany.
Well, first off, hold on. Even Hitler was elected
originally,
before he came out and was decided that, hey, I need to pause it because we're at war. Same thing with Zelensky. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's kind of like LBJ and Biden with Vietnam, sending in the American advisors, special ops to train the Vietnamese to fight the communists that were moving in. And look what happened to us there. Isn't history just awesome?
It's sad when people don't realize that history only relives itself.
And repeats itself, yeah. If we forget history, we're doomed to repeat it.
And we're going down that same road. Only difference is that we are now the old Europe as we allow for him to come in and continue to pimp us out for money.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So with that bright, shiny moment, we want to take a moment to remind you that you are required to make sure you are hitting the like button and the share button on any of the platforms you see us release our productions on, as well as making sure you're hitting that subscribe button. That way you can always stay up to date with anything that Jamie has to say. That way you'll know what your marching orders are for the foreseeable future. Excuse me. You are also hereby required to go to the website at conservativetalk.org and become a sponsor, because Jamie's Law does take funding to be able to continue to work and to provide relief across the world. Once Jamie's Law is enacted in both Russia and Europe, the war will end and cease. So with that, Jamie, would you mind please giving us your final thoughts?
Hey, look, there's a lot of opportunities to get involved, even with the municipal elections. I just want to say, get engaged.
Yes.
Now's the time more than ever. Local is where it's at. And if you're not fighting locally, then you're not fighting at all. National news is a big thing. International news is a big thing. But you know what? Each player has their own realm, and the things that affect you directly are at your local level. So make sure you stay engaged at your local level.
Yes. So for those here locally, their own city municipal elections and the Floyd County SPLOST question will be on the November 7th ballot. Early voting opens up October 16th. So make sure you are paying attention. Make sure you are registered to vote, because the voting registration deadline does end October 10th. Please make sure you're getting out to vote. There are a plethora of candidates that would greatly increase the benefit, or to greatly increase how Rome can prosper and moving forward. Won't be looking at 20-year bonds that are going to tie us into payments that could potentially bankrupt the city and bankrupt the local election system, or the education system here.
Hey, and I will say that goes for all our listeners. I mean, like, I just heard something about a 30-year loan in another county, way larger than ours in the state of Georgia. So look, here's the thing. We just need to be mindful of what's going on at our local level, because you don't necessarily know, not just nationally. The national debt is something that's unattainable, but that's what we send our representatives to fight for. Your local debt is what directly affects the education that your kids are going to get. Your local debt is the directly affect whether or not your kids are going to be able to have an opportunity to get a job or stay at home, or even be within your community, or want to move back to your community, because that's the opportunities that they're going to be given, especially right out of high school. So staying local, reminding yourself that the most important thing that you can do is engage at a local level, truly is the thing. And like Justin said, November 7th, that's universal in the state of Georgia. Stay focused on that date. Make sure you get out and vote if you're in a city, and remind your friends, if you're not in the city, that do live in the city, to get out and vote on November 7th.
Absolutely. And with that, this is Conservative Talk, and we will be seeing you soon.